Harry Georgiou is a professional in this area, aren't you, Harry?
I am.
He is from Swifty Clearances. They do work across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. Blimey, Harry, house clearance. I bet you find all sorts.
We have, over the years, you'd be surprised at the stuff that we find, starting from sort of skeletons, human skeletons, ammunition, firearms, you name it, we found it. The most notable thing that we found about 2 or 3 years ago now was some documents or journals linked to with a link to Sigmund Freud. There was in a probate and order clearance, which is not so rare nowadays, where because we specialise in probate and order clearances, and we was asked to look for these documents, and not expecting them to be found. We was told they were quite valuable, and despite all the odds, we managed to find them. We returned them to the people that asked us to find them, and they've ended up in a museum now. So that's probably the most notable thing that we found.
And where were the documents? Were they like bundled in the back of a drawer or something?
To give you an idea as to how the magnitude of this, the scale of the mission was, that this particular property was a 5-bedroom house, okay, and there was a tiny little pathway all the way up to the bedrooms, and so stacked was the stuff. Okay, you had to literally bend down, right, to get into the rooms. It took us 4 hours to get into the property, and they were actually downstairs in a trunk. Just buried. If you had to look for them, they weren't written in English either, so which made it even more difficult the task. But we managed to find them, so that was a good find for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that you led with skeletons and then went on to other things that you think are more interesting that you found.
Yeah,
Where have you found skeletons?
Well, again, it was in the same property actually, and the family were GPs. And they had the GP set up in the front room of the house. So I would imagine years ago, used to have skeletons hanging up in GP surgeries, and people sort of, as props, I suppose, showed bits of the skeleton to their clients.
But you think it was a real one? This wasn't like made of plastic?
No, it was definitely a real one.
Is there protocol when you find that kind of thing?
Well, we actually donated those to a medical student. He was absolutely delighted with those. We end up donating a lot of the stuff that we find to various charities, or try to find end users for them as well. That's what we end up doing.
Oh, blimey. With what you do, Harry, like there's a lot of stuff in people's houses, isn't there, that might look old, but is it really old? Have you developed an eye for like how far back stuff actually goes?
You can do, but now with the internet, it's so easy to sort of source information. Years ago, you had to be sort of experts in many different fields, but nowadays it's so easy to sort of source information and get to finding out how old stuff is, and finding a value for it as well. Because sometimes we sell stuff to offset against the cost of stuff that we have to pay to dispose of.
And what's your house like, Harry? This is going wildly off topic, but are you a clutterbug, or?
I became so in the beginning. I mean, everything that we used to come across in the early days, we ended up storing and thinking, that's got this value, we'll be able to do something with that, and so on and so forth. And then it got to a point where it got out of control, and we ended up renting storage facilities and storing it and dealing with it properly. And I've got a house again now. Okay.
What do you think's the oldest thing that you have held on to?
It's hard to say, but we get a lot of stuff from, I also had a fossil many years ago that it must have been about 400 or 500 years old.
Yeah, that's pretty old, isn't it?
Yeah.
Gosh, what an interesting job that you do. I bet that you need nerves of steel sometimes, do you?
Yes, especially with some of the grimier places. We have to fog them sometimes. Some places are quite biohazardous, so you have to be careful in that respect.
Harry, thank you so much for coming on the show. He is Harry Georgiou, a house clearance specialist from Swifty Clearances. They do work across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. Finding a skeleton in the front room of a couple of GPs' old house, and some manuscripts relating to Sigmund Freud.